Good morning, traders. Paul here with GammaEdge. Today is Wednesday, the 19th of April. Let's get started. Pause your players here. Read to the very bottom. If you agree, hit that play button. Summary for today. Starting to see a little bit of green, but we also have some red in here. Just watch for reversals and whipsaws. We think these are highly likely. We are in this new uptrend. It's a weak uptrend. So the CT, the cumulative tick, closed slightly up, and what we call the railroad track pattern, it's transitioned long, but it's weak. So that's going to give us this pause. But take the signals. Just don't get very big. Overall, the longer-term market models we're bearish. The ribbon is inverted. You'll see what that means here shortly. I'm going to actually go into a couple slides on that. We do have the ARCX, which is the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, and the AMEX, so all rolled into one. We consider this the quality tick. It is longer-term bullish. It's doing well and has confirmed an uptrend on 411. Yesterday, the S&P 500, which is the tick SP, it was confirmed down on 3.9. We are starting the transition to where it is going to be positive. So we colored it green here for today. The slopes are positive. It's going to take several days continuation for this to occur before it's going to give a confirmed up. Everything else, though, is lagging. So the trash can or the kitchen sink is lagging, the NAS is lagging, and the Russell is lagging. So just be aware of that. Market breadth is viewed by the 52-week, new high, new lows. Had another day. It started off strong yesterday for the bulls, but failed miserably, and we still have 200 down to 173 up. We're continuing that bearish breadth, and so just be cautious. We have a few stocks that are pushing us higher. This is not the broad market. Zero DTE, folks, 4175, near-term upside target, excuse me. We would not be surprised if a bit of stalling as we approach that at 4165. See a couple weakness in the nodes there. If we do push through that 4175, we see a clear path up to about 4190, 4195. We don't think we're going to go over 4200, and you'll see why here in a little bit. On the Zero DTE, we'll note that the 4210 strike has a large amount of calls coming off today. This is unusual for this strike to be targeted up that high, just over the 4200 level. It's kind of weird. We don't normally see this. Just be aware that there is something up there, and it will grow throughout the day as the gamma gets magnified. To the downside, 4100 is the downward bound for the Zero DTE. If we break below this 4140, we think we'll just kind of meander down to 4100. There's a lot of charm flows that will be supportive, pushing against us and keeping us in play, trying to push us above that 4140 area. We are watching this 4145. We see a near perfect setup. Have no idea if we're going to get there, but watch this for overnight parking if it does occur. So here's the cumulative tick model. We don't know if it's going to go up or go down today. This is not predictive. We get a lot of questions on this. All it does is give us a view of where we are. And this is the composite view. Bottom line, the ARCX is showing that we are above the historical moving averages, which we call the ribbon, and we are slightly higher. One way to look at this is that previous slide is really composed of three different things. This is the CT, the short term. This is appropriate for Zero DTE, and basically we did have a slightly stronger day yesterday. We started off strong and then just kind of horizontal throughout most of the day and then rallied into the end with buying. We also have what we call the railroad track pattern. This is appropriate for the Zero DTE folks as well as those who are looking maybe go overnight into a swing trade. And you can see that we turned off yesterday right about here, and then we started moving to the long side, and so we ended the day on the long side. So actually today is a new trigger day to the upside. Want to be mindful of that. That's good, but just be aware that although this doesn't flip back and forth as much as the instantaneous CT does, it does give us some whipsaw characteristics, and that's kind of what you see here. 4 up, 2 down, 1 up. We have no idea if we're going to go down. Taking a look at Gamma on the ES, a little bit of a mixed picture here. So still unchanged at key levels here. The two I want to call out to you is that we've had a drop in positive Gamma on the ES and a drop in positive trans. So a couple things to note. Read the bubbles here. The key takeaway is that when we start seeing the top come in a bit, that can be ominous because we're getting a compression from above. That could be positioning as price goes up. It's to take advantage of the convexity in a shorter term as opposed to up at, say, the 45.50, which is where we were, and up here at this 45.30 in the transition area. So when we start seeing these two drop, we want to pay attention, make sure that we're not out over the tips of our skis. We are watching a couple different things for entry today. AVGO, AVGO, Adobe, NVIDIA, and XOM are in the trans to plus GEX category, and then we're watching these for GEX ratio long entries. IWM is improving. It's been in this category now for some time, as is XRT. Both are pretty poor in general, but just keep watching those for an improvement in the GEX ratio strategy. Taking a look here at the PM settled complex. First thing to note here is we're starting to fade just a little bit relative to yesterday. Still strong, all right, still call dominated, but don't read too much into this fade. But it takes time to unwind these market cycles. Transition here, we've got the lower range, what we call N trans, is moved upwards a little bit, and that's caused a tightening. When we see a tightening of the transition, it usually points to a break in either direction because things are becoming well defined. All the way up here at 43.20, this is the end of month June short calls for JPM. These are not liquid, but they are certainly influential, and you can see that in the PM settled complex that we have a good runway of out of the money calls that are dominating the conversation above. Remember, this is the area where we have in the money puts and the deltas are bigger, so the speculation to the upside is still very much in control, and want to pay attention to that. Because this is not liquid up here, we are taking 40.50 as the minus GEX level. You can see that right here at this is 49.22 that is hidden by this little leader right here. The key takeaway in this, though, is that right below that at 40.45, we're starting to see what we call that crack in the ice, where we start seeing deltas flip. That's limiting what we're seeing here, and if we continue to see these numbers get smaller and smaller as either puts are added or calls are removed, because these are in the money calls, just due to expiries, we could start seeing a transition, and it would be supportive of potentially taking some long profits and maybe positioning while you can for downside movement. We are watching the half levels here. 4100 pretty clear, 4050 pretty clear, and 4000 very, very clear. The 0 DTE, this is what I was talking about earlier, is that area 42.10 and 42.15. We don't think we're going to get any higher than that. From today's contribution, you can see it really tapers off very, very quickly, so it'd be very surprised to push anywhere up into this area, but that probably is the upper bound. So if you can get premium up here, most likely you could sell, so any rally up probably could sell something there very, very safely. Down below 4100, also not seeing a drop below that. This is that node at 4145 that is almost picture perfect of why we could potentially, it's right in the middle of transition. Wouldn't be surprised at overnight parking in this particular area. 4175 is a key for today, 4100 to the downside. Looking at tomorrow, we're not going to spend any time on this. Extremely weak. We don't, when you have a weak structure, we don't torture the data to tell us the story we want to hear. So you can look at the presentation, but it's since it's auto-scaled, it looks powerful. But when you look at the magnitude of the contracts that are coming off tomorrow, it's really insignificant. Taking a look at the balance of the week, crystal ball, very, very tight transition structure. Want to note this 4130 for the balance of the week is probably the line in the sand to the downside. If we lose that 4130, that's going to open up the door below. We will note the growth of the 4200 in terms of a negative delta. It was slightly negative yesterday. I didn't talk about it on the video. Excuse me. This is almost 10 times, if not more, than it was yesterday, and that's fairly significant. When we see a delta flip like this is either due to the short calls or long puts going in at that strike, and that has an influence on probably how far we're going to go up. We think 4,200 is the upper limit for the week. Taking a look at the combo complex, still a sea of green above, sea of green below. Very, very important here. I think the key takeaway here is that although we're somewhat weaker, we're still very much call dominated above and below. That's very, very good. So just keep that in mind. We're not going to panic, and we're not going to see any major transitions that are going to flip the structure to a negative gamma or a negative delta structure. Not overnight. We got a lot to unwind here. Very, very strong numbers overall, even though they're weaker than yesterday. So with that, I think we're still in a very much a lower vol environment, at least through tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. So that's it for today. If you have any questions or comments, would urge everyone to come into GammaEdge.us. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a pricing tab. Please, click on that pricing tab, fill out the blanks, come on in for a 14-day free trial. And with that, I will bid you farewell. Hope you have a great trading day and hope to see you in the Discord. Thanks, everyone.